Dorkness Podcast. Here are Brad, Lisa, and Darren.
Welcome to another edition of the REVIEWcast podcast. With me is Lisa Gullickson, wife dork.
Hello. I was going to start by saying how sad I am that I'm not at Fantastic Fest, but I think we'll get to that in a bit. So I was like, why bog things down here at the beginning?
Yeah, we're going to start on an upper note.
Yeah, with my long explanations is not bogging anything down. I'm really good at podcasting.
And also joining us is Brad Gullickson, mouth dork.
Hello.
Yep. And I'm your host, Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, and welcome to the REVIEWcast podcast, Fantastic Fest Cast.
Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen, we have survived Fantastic Fest 2017. It was a long time coming for these two dorks to my right, and it was a long time coming for me too, as for a revisit. But this was their first year, and you guys made it. You did it.
We did it. Not only did we do it, but we nailed it.
You nailed it.
We killed it.
So we're going to talk about.
If it was a class, we get an A+.
We're going to talk about the highlights from the festival, and I really want to know and discuss your experience as a first-time attendee of the festival. So first, you talk about what was it like going into the festival beforehand. I know you hear all the stories about how cool it is and what movies everyone got to see and how cool Darren thinks he is because he saw this movie before everyone else last year, and prepping yourself for the experience, because it is an experience. It's almost similar to when we had to go to Comic-Con for the first time, such a huge event that requires a little bit of planning and preparation. So what was it like, I guess, emotionally and mentally for you two going into Fantastic Fest finally?
Well, what's interesting is I had not really researched any of the films when Wave 1 and Wave 2 were announced. I had given them a glance and said, oh, look, that's cool. Brawl in Cell Block 99. I'm excited about that. Blade of the Immortal. But I didn't dig deep into, what is 3-Foot Ball and Souls.
Right.
And it wasn't until the day before, Lisa and I sat down. We went over to Panera Bread, grabbed our laptops, a bread bowl, and dug into the film slate.
Yeah, Panera is the thinking man's fast food.
And, they don't kick you out when you've been there for 3 hours.
No, their Wi-Fi is great.
Yeah. So that was really where I started to get excited about the films.
Yeah. What about you, Lisa?
Oh yeah, totally. But that, I mean, it is an overwhelming number of films.
Right.
When you think about how many movies, it's over 100 movies. If you're counting shorts, it's over 100 movies total. And there's no way that you can go into depth on each film and you have this idea in your head that you want to craft the perfect, you want to do the amount of research so you can craft the perfect schedule and have the perfect Fantastic Fest experience. There's this pressure to make the best choices.
Right.
And I am, of course, a worrier.
Yeah.
I am a person with I'm a hand wringer.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of concerns. And before Brad and I really had our you pick to research sesh, I was very concerned about picking the right thing and having the best experience for myself.
Darren, you had explained the process of selection before, where the night of, you pick 5 films in 5 slots, or is it 4 slots?
5.
All right, 5 films in 5 slots in the order of anticipation that you want to see them. So, let's say, so we can start with Thursday. Thursday, slot 1 was, Thoroughbreds and blah, 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 blah. And so that process I had mapped out perfectly the week of. But once you've seen Thoroughbreds, and that Thoroughbreds is now removed from the rest of the week slots, it changes your anticipation of these other films and your ranking. So there's really no way to properly prep a week out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we adapted. You would get your first slot selection of movies, and then the next day when you went to pick that day's selection, that's when I would go back, read each description. And so it was a very fluid experience.
Mm-hmm.
What I liked about like that whole process is I liked how structured everything was.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the fact that if you missed out on something, it was going to come up again. And no matter what you put down, you're going to see 4 or 5 movies that day. And you can't go wrong with a day where you see 4 or 5 movies. I mean, I really only saw one movie where I was just like, I literally can't take anything from this movie. I did not enjoy this movie.
What movie was that?
Mouse.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Mouse. I fell asleep during the mermaid one.
Blew my mind.
Blew my mind. And part of the reason I fell asleep was because there was so much vomit that I kept closing my eyes for the vomit so that I just eventually just fell asleep. So I probably would also strongly dislike that one. But whatever movie you came out of it with a conversation and people to have that conversation with.
Right.
And I enjoyed that structure.
All right. So speaking of movies, you mentioned, there are over 100 movies screening throughout this festival, and you won't be able to see all of them. So you have to pick the ones that are most important to you, that you think you would dig the most, and you program that into your daily schedule. And those are the films that you see. Now,
and then throughout the week, you're also adjusting too, because you're talking to different people in our group, or you're talking to people you just meet randomly in the little atrium entry hall
lobby.
thing.
Right.
Lobby, that's what they're called. And you start hearing buzz about other movies, and you go, oh, well, I have to make sure that I see Brimstone and Glory because
Right.
I hear that it's beautiful, or I guess I should really try to see Jailbreak.
What's interesting about the whole experience is that lobby area. While you're waiting for to board your next movie, the people you're with, like for me, it was incredibly surreal because we finally got to meet Neil Miller in person and the other Film School Rejects guys, Rob Hunter and Matthew Monagle, and that was awesome to meet these guys that we've been working with on the site. But then you'd turn your head and there would be Eric Vespi from Ain't It Cool News. There would be, the Birth Movies Death Gang. There'd be Jermaine Lucier from IO9.
Mm-hmm.
And it was wild to be in that environment.
Yeah.
And, sidle up to Leonard Maltin or Elijah Wood and strike up a conversation if you dared.
Did you dare, Brad?
I did not. I was intimidated by Elijah Wood.
I like to call Elijah Wood. Oh, what was the reference I made? Oh, I called Elijah Wood Dick Van Dyke's Ottoman. You know how in the beginning of the Dick Van Dyke Show, he would find a different way to trip over the ottoman? Like, no matter where you turned, there was Elijah Wood, and it startled you every single time.
yeah.
And I loved that environment. Absolutely. And, this was, and I'd like to get your take on it a bit, Darren, having been being the only person who's gone a previous year. But the whole Devin Faraci, Tim League, and then when we got there, the Harry Knowles screen captures started to get out. So there was this other weird sense in the room. There was a lot of conversation around the film community and female representation that was another part of the festival.
This is true, and that's an important conversation that should be at the festival. Should have happened before the festival, so where it wouldn't have been an issue at the festival. But having said that, and having been at the festival the previous year without this particular controversy, I would have to say, like, for me, it just made me realize that this festival is bigger than Tim League. It is really about the people at the festival. It's really about the filmmakers who go there to showcase their work. It's really about the audience there to see the work and to discuss the films and share in their love of films. Because even with the controversy, and it's not a controversy to take lightly by any means, the multiple controversies, as a matter of fact, even with those controversies there, it felt just like it did last year when there weren't any controversies, because the people who were there were doing what they did last year and talk about movies, introducing themselves to strangers, discussing movies, going into the theater, watching movies, coming out, talking with the directors, the filmmakers, the actors, and enjoying movies. And so even with a few hiccups here and there and questionable choices regarding programming, which led to more conversations, which will hopefully won't just be talk and rhetoric and PR apologies online. Hopefully it will lead to change. But even with those things happening, it was still the people at the festival, to me, in my mind, who made it feel like the previous year. Because every time I would go into a screening, I would sit down next to a stranger or with my friends, and I would have the same experience that I had last year. I would leave that screening, go out into the main lobby, and stand next to people and have conversations like I did last year. And it was no different. And the way that they have the system set up with you picking your movies, you being having boarding groups and going in and out, and have the volunteers usher you into the where you're supposed to be. All of that went without a hitch and went just like it did last year. So the machine of it hasn't changed. It's just, I think, and the people who go there are going for, we're sharing a common cause. We want to go see and discuss movies, and that hasn't changed. So for me, the experience didn't change.
And I would also encourage our listeners to read Christy Puchko's Pajiba article, Why I Went to Fantastic Fest and What I Learned There, to get a sense of what it was like on the ground and the importance of having this conversation. Mm-hmm. And when we were there, talking to the people around you, I think that was the other really exciting thing about the festival, was because of the system of boarding groups, you weren't necessarily always in the same theater with your wife or your friends.
Right.
I think Lisa and I actually only saw like two movies together over the course of 8 days.
Right.
And that allowed me to talk to the person next to me.
Right.
And that conversation, the Tim League, Faraci, Harry Knowles conversation, was certainly one of the topics on rotation.
Yeah.
And it's good that we're, putting it out there, that we are listening, that we are talking to each other about this.
And I think that the worlds of genre film and film criticism in general it's been a male environment. Mm-hmm. And the idea of going, okay, well, now we have to make this male environment a safe space for women. And we have to think about it in terms of our programming. We need to think about it in terms of the way women are portrayed in these films, and how we act towards women who are in the male space. I'm making quote marks here. I'll do it to the microphone. The male space. Fantastic Fest is one of those places where I'm just like, that's weird. There's no line for the ladies' room, but there is always a line for the men's room. That does not happen. And that is a ratio thing. There are so many more men at mm-hmm. Fantastic Fest than women. And I think that if you make film a welcoming place, women have a lot of valuable shit to say about movies.
Absolutely. So now your films that you saw many.
Saw 31.
31 films. Of all those films, which one stood out the most to you? What is your favorite of the fest? Lisa, you go first.
My number one film of the fest was Anna of the Apocalypse, or Anna the Apocalypse.
Anna and the Apocalypse.
Anna and the Apocalypse. I got all the important words right. Mm-hmm. I did write a review for this, and I put the title correct in my review on aftermoviediner.com. There was literally, there can't be a movie that's not like more made for me. It is a musical.
Mm-hmm.
It is a teen drama.
Yep.
It is a zombie film
Yep.
with super hyper cartoon violence. It's really funny in a really heartfelt way. Like it was interesting watching this movie after just having watched Lederhosen Zombies, where Lederhosen Zombies is literally like a spoof. Where I think that Anna and the Apocalypse is a legit comedy movie.
Right.
And I just really loved it. And afterwards, they had handed out like little poster prints to everyone with the intention of like the entire cast was there. The director was there with the idea of going to get those signed. And I had and those were people that I ignored walking into the theater because they were like nobody to me. I was like, who are these strange people? You know, they were very much dressed up because this was their premiere for the film.
Yeah.
And they looked stunning.
The world premiere.
The world premiere of this film. And, but they were nobody to me seconds before I saw the film. I just watched it. I didn't even take a picture with my phone. I was like, whatever.
I got you hooked up, Lisa.
Thank you. But then after the movie, I was holding my poster that they literally gave to me to get signed. And I was like too shy to ask anybody to sign my poster. And like everybody, of course, everybody in our group is very encouraging. Like, you know, like Liz was offering like, I'll be your wingman and we can go together. And I was like, no, I'm shutting this conversation down because I'm too socially awkward. I literally can't handle it.
That's what happens when Lisa loves something so hard.
I loved it so hard.
Yeah.
And so then the next day, I was sitting down at the coffee shop,
Medici's.
Medici, where I went every single morning, and I literally had a different croissant every day.
Oh.
And they were all delicious. Their pastries are amazing. But I would go there, and that's where I would write my reviews. So I was sitting to write my review for Anna and the Apocalypse, and I'm like looking at a blank screen because of course I loved the film so much. And then walks in the guy who played Chris in the movie, and I was like, hey, I saw your movie yesterday and it was amazing. And he's like, thank you so much. And I was like, I was really impressed at how well everybody could sing, because like that's one of like my pet peeves about movie musicals is they're great musicals, but the people can't carry it. But all of these singers, and he was like, yeah, you're like, well, the audition process was really rigorous. And I was like, I could tell. Congratulations. That was awesome. And we talked for like 5 minutes. I was like, that's so cool. Because I literally could not get up the gumption to say hi to you in a structured format.
Yeah.
And so then I'm sitting there and I'm wearing my Spider-Gwen hoodie because I'm a nerd, and I'm like, I'm at a movie festival, so I'm going to represent comic books. Yeah. So I'm sitting and I'm like, okay, now it's time to write my review. And then in walks John McPhail, the director of the film, and I was just like, oh shit, be invisible. And he goes, I like your Spider-Gwen hoodie. And I was just like, I liked your movie. And then we talked for like 20 minutes about comics. And he actually mentioned that when he was researching, like when he was getting ready to direct Anna and the Apocalypse, he actually read a bunch of comics, Spider-Gwen included, as well as that Wonder Woman run that you had me read.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. The Azzarello run?
Yeah, the Azzarello run. To prep for directing Anna and the Apocalypse, because he wanted those strong woman characters. And I was like, that's great. And then I told him about Dawn Greenwood, because Dawn Greenwood is my favorite, though she's not, I guess, the best research for Anna and the Apocalypse because she has no powers and she very rarely kicks butt. But she's very sweet and has great ideas. So that was just like, I don't know, it was just so nice and bizarre and like, when you're just in the soup, in the creative soup with the creative individuals, these conversations just kind of arise naturally. Yeah. And like, they're super excited to talk about this film. They just had their world premiere. They want feedback. Mm-hmm. And so in the safety of my coffee nook, I could say something, and that was like really special.
That coffee shop was like the happening place.
Yes. Yeah, because everybody needs coffee.
Yep.
And this was the place.
So, see, how awesome was that experience?
Super sweet, and I was super stoked. And I did end up writing that review.
See?
And it's a glowing review. They should be very happy.
Brad, out of all the films you saw, what one stuck out to you the most?
I mean, I
and
saw
why?
a lot of great movies. I would actually say that. I'm looking at my Fantastic Fest letterbox list. I would say that the first 17 movies on my list I really liked to loved. So that's pretty damn successful.
Yeah.
But my favorite film of the festival was probably my most anticipated film of the festival, and that was S. Craig Zoller's Brawl in Cell Block 99, his follow-up to the other Fantastic Fest classic, Bone Tomahawk.
Man, that Brawl in Cell Block 99 screening was nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this was my first time ever having a press pass, thanks to my work over at Film School Rejects, and that allowed me to see Brawl in Cell Block 99 that morning at 8 a.m. It was the first thing that I saw, and that screening was pretty crowded, but it's a much more reserved audience. It's a prove me audience for sure. So while I was watching it, and if you've seen the trailer for Brawl, you've only seen a smidgen of that movie, and that was also a delight to realize as the film progressed. But when that film turns, it is like brutal. Isn't even like it doesn't come close.
That film turns on you so hard.
Like in a couple ways, like in violence, certainly, but also in insanity, and the style of movie that it is shifts a degree, but it's a pretty crucial degree. And I've been trying to describe it to people. Like, it's not From Dusk Till Dawn, where you're watching a crime film that turns into a vampire movie. You're watching a crime film that turns into a John Carpenter movie. Like, and you'll totally get that once you watch the film. But Vince Vaughn in the film, he's a hulking dude already. He's taller than I am, and he is bulked out to the extreme in Brawl in Cell Block 99. He's a guy who works for a towing company. He's fired. He goes home, discovers that his wife's been cheating on him, and he proceeds to obliterate her car with his fists. Walks back into the house, and they have a calm, kind of terrifying conversation about when is he going to pick the cream versus when is he going to pick the milk, and they're going to make this relationship work. Like, that opening sequence, he's such a threat, and your relationship with his character goes through many alterations. You're like, Jennifer Carpenter, run! Don't stay with this guy. But they stick it out. They maintain the relationship. Flash forward a few months, he's working for some not so nice dudes, running drugs for them because that's the kind of job that he can get. And it's a hard boiled story. Things go terrible. He ends up in jail, and you're like, okay, well, here's where Brawl in Cell Block 99 is going to get its title. No, keep going. And it takes a half of the movie before Udo Kier shows up. But once Udo Kier shows up, the film just transforms into a nightmare. Yeah. And I loved that nightmare. And the violence in the movie is, it fulfills the promise of what you saw at the climax of Bone Tomahawk. And maybe even takes it up a notch in one particular scene.
I think it definitely takes it up a notch.
What I was surprised how invested I became in the character of Bradley Thomas, played by Vince Vaughn. So I don't want to go any further because the film has opened in New York and LA. It's going to open wider on the 13th, which is just a couple days, and it is going to be on VOD. So it gets, Mouth Dork's highest recommendation. It certainly won't be for everybody. I definitely had some conversations with people who were not as in love with it as I was, and sad for them. But for me, this was the treat of the festival. And like, you know, I've always liked Vince Vaughn. You know, who doesn't like, you know, old school and dodgeball and things like that. I've always really enjoyed his darker turns in stuff like Clay Pigeons or even something like Domestic Disturbance, which is a crappy movie, but I always thought he was extremely intimidating in that film. And, you know, I've always defended the Psycho remake. I really like his Norman Bates. So to see him embrace a character like Bradley Thomas, who truly is a terror, but also sometimes a good guy, or at least a caring guy, I thought this is, you know, at the top of his roles that he has inhabited.
I also super loved this movie. This was probably, so like, it probably goes, Anna and the Apocalypse is like my number one, like with a huge star and several hearts after it. Yeah. Just my kind of movie. And then number 2 and 3 switch between Blade of the Immortal and Brawl on Cell Block 99. And what I think, like what I love about Vince Vaughn and the character of Bradley Thomas is like all of the heinous shit he does in the film is just a matter of priorities. Like he has a number one priority and everything after that priority is expendable. And so the stakes, the Udo Kier stakes are so high. They're so high that all morality is out the window. It's just that priority. That is the only thing in his mind. So that he just becomes like a machine. He's like a freaking lawnmower, but instead of grass, it's just like other people. He just destroys it.
Yeah.
You know, he's the type of character that you see in crime films where, you know, he's all confidence and skill. You know, he's Parker from like the Richard Stark novels. You know, he's on a path, and if his mission is X, he's going to achieve it. But you know what Brawl does is you never quite fear like he's not going to be able to get it done. But is he going to be able to get it done in time?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Right.
Yeah. And I can't remember partly because either I was audibly giddy and astonished.
It's exhilarating.
Or I was internally giddy and astonished. But I don't remember there being, like, for these scenes of violence or him lawn mowing these people, I don't remember there being a score. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was just happening, and you just had the audio from, you know, the fist flying or the head hitting the wall or whatever.
There's definitely a score in the movie.
What I mean during like the moments of violence, which to me, I think isolated the act of violence and isolated Vince Vaughn's character, so where you didn't have music trying to drum up an emotion from you or give you a sense of urgency. It was just there and inherent. And like what you said, Lisa, the stakes were high because of the narrative, because of the ultimatum he was given, because of the Udo Kier enters the picture. So the stakes are already placed up high, and so when he has to make the determination to make these choices to do what has to be done, there's no music to go along with it to give you this sense of, oh shit, the stakes are high, you know, this is his moment, or is he going to do it, is he going to make it out? It was just him, his acts of desperation and violence to get to as being a means to an end. And I found that really effective, especially when, you know, the only sound you hear is like people's faces hitting concrete, and like it was some really rough shit. And the audience that I was with when I saw it, again, this is like a perfect genre film to see with a Fantastic Fest crowd. I mean,
were we together? So I saw the 8 a.m. screening, and I enjoyed my own experience so much with that movie that I had to switch out my screening because I can't remember what I was supposed to see. So then I watched Brawl twice in a day, and so because it was important to me that I had to watch it with a crowd.
Full House.
And
Yeah.
I think we were sitting next to each other.
me,
Yeah,
because I was losing my
yeah.
shit.
I mean, like, even beyond the violence, like, it's the kind of violence where you just feel it. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like, and it's, like, so exhilarating. It just shoots adrenaline through your
Extremely
system.
visceral,
But,
yeah.
like, you have to be mentally and emotionally ready to hear some sick shit. Not just in terms of, like, sound effects, but, like the villains are truly villainous. Like, it's grotesque in every sense of the word. So, like, if you're at all sensitive to anything, then it's probably not the movie
and the
for
way
you.
that
It was so close to the line for me that I just loved it so much.
Zoller doesn't cut away from anything, like fight-wise.
Oh, no.
The fights are, all there in front of you to watch. They're not extreme close-up. They're not choppy. It's, they're two shots. And then with the violence, he does the same thing. He finds ways to either mask the cuts or concoct a really great blood and body gag so that he doesn't have to cut away from the violence. So you're forced to watch it unless you close your own eyes.
Yeah.
It's clear that he makes movies to express the terrible shit that's in his head. And for some directors, that does not work out so great. But for him, it works. It works for me.
I also love the fact that the songs in the film, the Motown songs that you're hearing,
Man.
the OJs, are new original songs that Zoller wrote with the OJs.
What?
Yep.
Yeah, and
I
they
didn't
just
learn that
sound like
until
real Motown
afterwards.
What?
That is the magic of independent film. It's cheaper to rent the OJs than to pay for a license for an original OJs or other Motown song.
But what that allows him to do is, if you listen to the lyrics of their songs, they're mother songs, they're love songs, like they're perfectly in tune with the narrative.
Oh man, that's amazing. That's amazing. Shit.
If we were to parallel this with Anna and the Apocalypse, they came up with they had a similar issue of they couldn't pay for licenses for when somebody was playing a song on the radio or there was a commercial. So the composers of all of the music of the musical also had to come up with all of the radio music and the commercial music and they can't pay for actual Christmas songs because those are actually licensed. So they have to come up with their own standard Christmas songs. It's like, that is another rewarding thing about Fantastic Fest.
Yeah.
Just watching people make amazing independent film and the kind of ingenuity that a small budget film creates out of necessity because, you're Dan Hertzfeld and you're, trying to make an animated film on your own budget, with your niece or whatever. Like, people come up with the most brilliant stuff so that they can make the movie that they want to make on the budget that they can afford.
Yeah.
It's pretty magical.
Can you imagine if Brawl in Cell Block 99 was a musical? Like, it's everything.
It should be a musical.
Everything that's in the film stays, the tone, the look of it, and everything else, except like they're just moments of like song.
Sometimes, like, he's like snapping bones on the beat. Break your face. Break your arm.
Like sometimes like fight,
rhyming
like,
and dancing.
like fight songs.
Well,
Like
but that's
fight
what
singing.
Baby Driver is.
Aw. Yeah, that's true.
Man, yeah, Brawl and Cell Block. That. So for me, it was at one point it was a toss up between, like Lisa, it was like toss up between Brawl and Cell Block 99 and Blade of the Immortal. But I ended up coming around to Blade of the Immortal as my favorite film of the festival.
And that's my second favorite film.
The big hoopla about Blade of the Immortal is, of course, this being Takashi Miike's 100th film, which is an astonishing achievement for that man to have done that much for cinema and have such a prolific career. Now, the quality versus quantity debate can be had regarding his films. Not all of his films, if any, are for everyone. But, while I don't appreciate every film that he's made, there are the ones that I do. And Blade of the Immortal is my favorite Takashi Miike film as of right now.
Same.
I've gone on record before saying that 13 Assassins is his most accessible film. And now I would argue that Blade of Immortal is just as accessible as well. It doesn't have as much of Miike's trademarked oddity and perverseness in it as his other films.
Though it has some.
It does, but not as much. And it follows and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it is an adaptation of a manga, and instead of an original idea or property from Takashi Miike, because it left to his own devices and his imagination, we would have got some way weirder shit than what we got in Blade of the Immortal. But nonetheless, what we do get with Blade of the Immortal is a damn fine, beautiful looking, and very entertaining 100th film. It's a very fine, beautiful, entertaining film, period. But the fact that this is his 100th film, if he were to stop making movies tomorrow, I think that this is an extremely high note for him to go out on. Also seeing it at Fantastic Fest with the genre crowd helped elevate an already phenomenally high experience. It's a really good and fun movie. Like I found myself surprised by how how enjoyable and how fast paced, even though that movie's long. I mean, I think the relationship between the main guy. So the movie is about this guy who is he's an immortal. He has to he can be cut, stabbed, and have his limbs chopped off, but he has these bloodworms in him that help him regenerate. And he's hired by this little girl as a Yojimbo to get revenge for her, for the people that killed her parents. And so, it's one of those, a reluctant bodyguard hitman type guy is hired to assist someone, and then they have like a rough start or a relationship, and then they come to enjoy each other's companies, and then become friends, and then need each other by the end of the film. But Miike does something different in that, firstly, like their relationship doesn't start off as rocky as another film would have it. Like they're not chums right from the get-go, but they quickly warm up to each other, and then from that point on, it's just about the external forces preventing them from seeing the end of the day, as opposed to internal conflict between the two.
And the middle chunk of the movie has a serial nature to it, where it's Manji encountering one boss after another, and each boss has allows for some backstory to be revealed, for his relationship with the young girl to be connected, but also it's just really exciting to see a variety of villains for him to cut through.
It really feels like a manga in that way, in that in mangas, or in America known as comics, and also in anime, there's a episodic nature and the introduction of different colorful characters and villains in the way that it is in this film. Is you will find that in the manga, and I think that it translated well to the film.
What I was so surprised by was how, I've seen a lot of samurai movies. I haven't seen every samurai movie, but I've seen quite a bit.
Right.
And this one felt like the closest samurai picture to speak to the Kurosawa ideas of honor and duty. There are a lot of parallels to Manji in this character, and his, by the very nature of him being an immortal, he doesn't have to train like he once did, because he can get his ass kicked and he's still going to win because he's always standing at the end. And so he's let himself, dilapidate. And in this relationship with this young girl, he has to return to the sense of honor, the sense of duty, the sense of skill and craftsmanship. Yeah. And I just saw that quest or that reawakening. I saw a lot of parallels with characters in Seven Samurai, Yojimbo Sanjuro.
Yeah. And that's what I like about the film, and it also just speaks to Takashi Miike as a director, is that, you know, just like this film being different from Ichi the Killer being different from Gozu being different from Visitor Q, like Takashi Miike is able to have some off the wall crazy shit. Like, I don't even know if you can go that deep into characterization when discussing Dead or Alive 2, but that same director who crafted that film, who crafted Gozu, can make a movie where a guy can get his limbs chopped off while traveling the countryside with a little girl and then regenerate him and kill bad guys. You can still go into a character discussion and look at someone and have something more more than just superficial stuff to talk about and pull from a character, I think.
Also, like, the movie is, like, visually stunning.
Oh my
where
gosh.
I feel like, with my limited experience with Takashi Miike, he likes to lean into, like, the ugly or the Technicolor, where things are just really visually bizarre. Mm-hmm. But I find this more in the spirit of, like, Lady Snowblood, where it just, like, there's so much death and it is so pretty.
The cinematography is striking.
Like, the end where, you know, there's this massive battle has occurred is insanely gorgeous in its composition.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a shot where a battle has happened and there are bodies strewn everywhere in the streets of this village.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the composition of that shot is so amazing in that it's not necessarily bird's eye, it's almost 3/4 view where you're just looking top down on bodies, and then the character, the girl, everyone who's dead basically has like the same color palette. Mm-hmm. But then, like, the girl who's laying face down, she had like a red ribbon and some like a little darker blue outfit in her white socks. But because of what she's wearing and because of how it was framed, my eyes were automatically drawn to her, and just the composition of that shot and all the darkness around this innocent life, this light there was, I mean, just so striking. There's so many different compositional elements in the film like that I just found none of his films look like Blade of the Immortal. No. None of them. And again, another triumph to be able to say, you know, here's a director who's this long in the game and is still able to crank out something unique and new to him as far as what we're used to getting from him. And that's awesome that, you know, it's, you know, one of your favorites of the festival, and Brad, that you loved it so much. And
I mean, everybody who saw it liked it to one degree or another.
So I'm excited to revisit it again. But yeah, that has to be like my favorite of the festival. So outside of your favorites, like what are some of the other films that you want other people to check out?
I mean, I was really surprised by what Netflix had to bring to the event.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to a film festival and you hear that there are going to be 3 Netflix films, one of which is going to land, you know, the Friday after the fest.
Right.
And, you know, well, my priorities aren't going to be those movies because I'm going to be able to see them eventually. But honestly, Gerald's Game, the latest Stephen King adaptation, was one of my favorite experiences at the entire festival. You know, Mike Flanagan, who directed Hush and Ouija, Origin of Evil. Oh gosh, what's another one? What did he do before Ouija, Origin of Evil? I'm blanking on it. Anyway, you know, he's made a bunch of films that I've enjoyed, mostly technically. You know, they're solid entries into the horror genre. But Gerald's Game just floored me. I thought it was a beautiful looking movie, but how he cracked that novel, you know, the classic unfilmable book, by creating these personas for Carla Gugino and Bruce Greenwood to perform outside of their actual characters was ingenious. Yeah. And it allowed for just such relishment on Gugino and Greenwood's behalf. They're so fantastic in the movie, and in particular, Carla Gugino. I think, the hyperbolic statements I was saying about Vince Vaughn and Brawl, I would just slide on over to Carla in this movie.
Yeah.
It's the performance of her career, handcuffed to this bed after her husband has had a heart attack and died by her side, and she has to survive for enough time for someone to find her before she starves to death or dies of thirst. It's just a really fantastic character piece that will certainly play well on Netflix, but I am just incredibly thankful that I was able to see it on the big screen and experience it with a crowd.
Yeah.
Because there is, like the moments in Brawl, there comes a moment at the end where it was certainly elevated by all the screams to my left and right.
Yeah. All right, Lisa, what was some other memorable films or screenings that you saw?
The first film that I loved at Fantastic Fest, I actually watched with you, Darren.
Yep.
So you know what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about Bad Genius.
Yes.
So Bad Genius is a heist film from Thailand. But instead of like busting into a bank or whatever, it's a bunch of kids conspiring to cheat on a test. And like we've seen, like when I read the description, I thought this would be like kind of like that movie 21, I think is what it was called, where it was the kids cheating on poker. I thought it was going to be kind of like that. But this is like a legit, like they come, like there's a mastermind and they come up with an ingenious plan and they put the plan in motion and people have doubts, but they put the plan in motion and then, shit goes awry and they're solving things on the fly. And it is so tense. Yeah. It is a tense film. It plays on all of those like high school insecurities where the score you get on a test does feel like life and death. And one kid, if they get a bad grade, they can't, do the school play, and another kid, their father will send them to military school or something. And and another girl just wants some freaking friends. It plays on all of those high school insecurities that we have to raise the stakes through the roof. And it was just an amazing film. And we got a nice intro to the film. So before each film, they have one of the programmers do like a little intro, and they've already seen the film, and they sometimes they have some factoids about it. And the girl who plays the main character, who I'm on the IMDb, Darren, and I just scrolled down to look at her name, and her name is like 3 inches long. I can't even try.
Just say her character name.
Lynn. The girl who plays Lynn, the programmer made this big deal of going like, she's like a supermodel, and then this is her first film.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, whatever. But she's like an amazing actress. And I'm like, that seems unfair. Because she's playing the smart, nerdy chick. And I'm just like, yeah, but how hard can it really be? Because you're a freaking supermodel. But
she was great in the film.
Yes, she was really great. Everybody was great in the film. I thought it was able to be a high school drama without being cheap, which I find really beautiful. And vomiting is like a central element to the plot. And so the fact that I could watch the movie and love it, and it certainly hiked up the intensity of the film. But Darren was there to protect me. I was able to close my eyes at all the appropriate times, so I was fine. But
it was a great film. That's one of those things. That's one of the experiences that I talked about last Fantastic Fest, where you say, all right, I don't know any of these movies that are playing today, so I'm just going to pick this one. For me, I don't really read too much into the synopsis or the descriptions of the film. I just try to pick like a sentence or two, and then that's it. So this was one I was like, well, I hope this is good. I hope I enjoy it. And you come out the end of it pleasantly surprised, being exhilarated by this film. And Lisa's right. She's not lying. I mean, it is. Yeah, they're trying to cheat on this test, but all of the tropes of like a heist film, they're there. Like the meticulous planning.
But it'll actually work. You know, like to me, it's just like once they put all of those elements together, like that makes a ton of sense. Which is something that I thought was missing in Logan Lucky.
Yeah.
Which they double back on with the end.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm just like, really, how is this plan gonna work? Where I feel like now I know, like if I wanted to like go back in time and cheat on the SATs, I could totally do it. I would just like after I watched Gone in 60 Seconds, I was like, I'm pretty sure I can hijack a car.
Yeah.
That's not what it's called. What is it called when you steal a car by starting it without
Carjack?
keys? Yes. I
Hotwire.
Yeah, after watching God in 60 Seconds, I thought I could hotwire a car. I'm pretty sure I could cheat on a standardized test.
Yeah, it's not an easy process, but they make it seem doable.
And they make it look good because they're supermodels.
And then the way that the film is shot and edited, the music, in addition to like the acting, but just from a technical standpoint, I mean, there are some visual flourishes to there's one moment where the main character uses music to, I guess, like get her in the zone in the midst of the heist, the plan, and the visual representation of this moment was just really well done. It was totally unexpected, but it was really well done. I just thought that it just elevated an already well-made film. Just took it to like another level.
And then that like kind of like dream sequence moment becomes a very tangible thing in the film, which I thought played off really well.
Yeah, really good film. So check it out if you can. Hopefully it'll get released soon, either on VOD, stateside, or Netflix, or even in your local like art house theaters that plays foreign film. Because a lot of the AMCs in our area have been running films like this, and also the Regal Cinema and Fairfax, I think it is. They've been showing like a bunch of foreign films, Korean films, Indian films as well. So hopefully this gets a theatrical release because it deserves to be seen on the big screen.
This is one that I missed, so I need to hunt it down.
I think you'd really dig it, Brad. So outside of the films that you saw at Fantastic Fest, because Fantastic Fest is more than just the movies, like what are some of the other experiences that you found memorable for your time there?
I really enjoyed Leonard Maltin did 2 live podcasts.
He did 3, actually.
3 live podcasts.
We missed the Vince Vaughn one.
Yes, so he did. The ones we saw were with
Gilbert Gottfried.
Gilbert Gottfried and the Ottoman guy.
Elijah Wood.
Elijah Wood. I loved having Gilbert Gottfried around, like, as a person. He's like one of those, like, people from my childhood. He was the parrot in Aladdin. He was
Lethal Weapon 2.
Lethal Weapon 2.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not Lethal Weapon 2.
That wasn't Joe Pesci?
No. Beverly Hills Cop 2.
They're all the same to me. All 2 movies.
It's like, wait, what?
That and Pee-wee's Big Adventure. They're all the same. All sequels and Pee-wee's Big
Adventures of Ford Fairlane. But, you know, that was because he was there because of his documentary, Gilbert.
Really beautiful.
Was phenomenal. And talking about a special Fantastic Fest treat, the fact that he would introduce the film, and the way he did that was tell
3 street jokes.
The nastiest 3 street jokes.
I mean, Gilbert Gottfried street jokes.
It's like amazing. Here he is. He comes in. Wham, bam. Thank you, ma'am. Here's my movie. Oh, yeah, I'm a human being and you love me now. I never quite understood the appeal of Gilbert Gottfried growing up, seeing him in those movies or on USA's Up All Night. But to then watch this film that really exposes him as a person and as a creative was phenomenal. And then to have him do a Q&A afterwards in which people ask him about his experiences on USA Up All Night. And you're like, oh, crap, there's another dude in here who watched Up All Night. That's cool.
Well, I feel like I got to know Gilbert Gottfried through the Penn Jillette radio show. Penn Jillette actually had a terrestrial podcast, like an hour radio show that he would do in the evenings, I think like after Don and Mike or something. I can't remember. But because and him and Penn Jillette are like super tight friends. In fact, Penn Jillette does appear in the documentary. So he would show up on that podcast and they would joke around, but it was like terrestrial radio. So I was like, this Gilbert Gottfried guy, you know, he's kind of off color, but he's pretty funny. So I went out of my way to find his comedy albums, and they are raunchy. They're just straight up horrible. But because he's like such a character, he just kind of just gets away with it up until the point where he doesn't, which we see in the documentary. But what I love, getting back to the Leonard Maltin thing, is one thing Gilbert Gottfried likes to do is make the most ancient references that I can't even allude to, because there's such, like, I think the only one I understood was Shirley Temple. So we can think about like that era of celebrity is the like what he loves to make reference to and do impersonations of, and you're like, I guess that's accurate. They all just kind of sound like Gilbert Gottfried to me. But like to see him and then Leonard Maltin, who finally a guy for Gilbert Gottfried to talk to who knows what the fuck he's talking about. And then and it was just two old guys talking about things none of us hipsters understood at Fantastic Fest. Really was like just this thing of beauty. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And the fact that, I don't know, I just loved it. And podcasts, I think they're beautiful.
Yay. What about you, B?
I mean, for me, it has to be the interviews that I was able to do through Film School Rejects. And, you know, we've interviewed a bunch of cool people on this podcast.
Yep.
And we've had the opportunity to do like hour-long, almost 2-hour-long conversations with filmmakers here. And they've been incredibly enriching and exciting. And, like, I'm just so proud of those interviews. But we've never interviewed, and I certainly have never interviewed, somebody like Vince Vaughn. And so when that all got set up, and they're like, okay, Brad, well, on Saturday, you're going to have 15 minutes with Udo Kier, and then you're going to have 15 minutes with Vince Vaughn and S. Craig Zoller. You know, so show up at this hotel in downtown Austin.
You interviewed Udo Kier and Vince Vaughn in the same, not only the same day, but in the same lifetime.
Like in the same 30 minutes, man. Like, it was nuts. So you show up to the, I think it was like, I can't remember where the first hotel was. The Marriott, Four Seasons, something like that. A fancy hotel. Yeah. And, you know, you're told to go to the 15th floor. Yeah. And there's a table waiting up there. And then there's the publicists. And, you know, I've never done this in person. I've always done it over Skype. Yeah. And I'm like, well, how much prep do I need to do? And they just want you to focus on Brawl and Cell Block 99. So don't, you know, Brad, don't say money. Don't say money. Don't say money. You know, don't say my boy Blue. And I didn't know if I was going to interview Udo Kier first or if I was going to interview Vaughn and Zoller first. So I get up there and they put me on a couch and they're like, okay, well, you're going to do Udo Kier first. I'm like, all right, that's weird. Because, I mean, Udo Kier, he's been a staple of my entire life. Yeah. Every damn movie ever. And when the door opens and Scott Wampler comes out from Birth Movies Death, and like Wampler, and I take this opportunity to introduce myself. We have a little bit of a conversation, but he's just like super giddy. He's like, oh man, that was the craziest interview I've ever had. He's like the easiest guy to talk to. And oh my God, he's got all the stories. And I was like, that sounds great. I'm excited, but I'm pure nerves. And then, like 2 seconds after I have this exchange with Wampler, Udo Kier steps out. And he's like, okay, who's ready? That's my dead-on Udo Kier impersonation. And he's like, up next, you go. And I wasn't sure, like, what was the room going to be like? So, I introduced myself to Udo Kier. And we go into the room, and then the room shuts. And I swear I hear a lock. And it's just me and Udo Kier in a room. He's on a couch, and I have a chair, but it's a chair where like the back of the chair is like 6 feet away from where my butt is. So there's like no way for me to sit in this properly. So I'm hyper aware of how uncomfortable I am looking to Udo Kier, but he does not care. And he only needs like half a prompt before he runs into an entire monologue.
Yeah.
And it was just like me, I hit record on my iPhone and then I just absorb story after story after story. And you can now read this interview on Film School Rejects. But I mean, he talks about everything. I'm supposed to keep it only about Brawl in Cell Block 99, and we start off there. But like at the first moment, he's name dropping, Wim Wenders and Fassbender and Christoph Waltz and, Suspiria and Argento. And I mean, he's just off to the races of this massive history of film that he has lived.
Yeah.
It was so crazy surreal, but he also put me at ease instantly. It was no big deal. He was super forthcoming. He was happy to be there. He was complimentary. He was excited. And then it was over.
Yeah.
And then out he steps. He goes, okay, who's next? And then the next critic, wanders into the room.
That's crazy.
And then okay, so that was 15 minutes. Now I'm waiting for Vince Vaughn and Zoller to get set up. And now, even though I cooled after Udo Kier, again, I love Vince Vaughn. Swingers, holy shit.
Yeah.
Psycho and
Jurassic Park 2.
Oh my God, The Lost World. I should have asked about that. Yeah. He's a massive celebrity icon in this dork cave.
Mm-hmm.
And the door opens up. And also, Bone Tomahawk, I love that movie.
Yeah.
I love that movie. And I have just seen Brawl in Cell Block 99 by this point, too, because I saw the AM screening, and I loved that movie. So I'm super giddy. Stand up. There's Vince Vaughn. He's taller than I am.
That's saying something, because you're 8 feet tall.
Yeah, he's 8'1".
Shit.
And, he's drinking a tea with some lemon. His voice is a little hoarse. But, I'm wearing my Swamp Thing shirt. So S. Craig Zoller notices that. We have a quick exchange about S. Craig Zoller, or about Bernie Wrightson and Len Wein and Alan Moore. And, I so wanted to just, take off in that direction. And I kind of wish that I did.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I awkwardly steered back to okay, so we're here about Cell Block 99. Let's talk that.
Oh.
And we just, we just start talking Cell Block, and it was awesome. It was a great conversation. But it is weird. We've talked about going to comic book conventions and movie conventions and meeting celebrities and paying, $80 to shake the hand of William Shatner, and what a thrill that is for me.
Yeah.
And sitting in this room with Vince Vaughn, it's like I've tricked them into extending that 5-minute $80 autograph session into a conversation. And they think I'm just a movie reviewer talking about their movie with them.
Yeah.
But inside, I'm just going, I love you. You don't realize how much I love you. and I'm keeping it cool, and I managed to stuff all that.
Yeah.
And then the next day, when I did all the Netflix interviews, and now I'm in a room with Carla Gugino and Bruce Greenwood, Captain fucking Pike from Star Trek 2009, and the President of the United States from the Kingsman Golden Circle.
Mm-hmm.
You're in that room and you're just like, I'm cool. I can talk to these people like human beings. But inside you're just, insane.
Yeah.
You're insane with glee. I mean, the Gerald's Game interviews with Mike Flanagan and producer Trevor Macy. That's my favorite interview that I did the entire time I was down there. They were super receptive, and we talked Dark Tower, and we talked, all the various Stephen King adaptations. And, it helped that you could obviously tell that I was in love with their movie. And I was like, Brad, keep your compliments down. You're a professional. But I couldn't help but just squee over Gerald's Game with them.
Yeah.
And because that conversation was so relaxed and it ended on such a positive note, that went right into the conversation with Carla Gugino and Bruce Greenwood. And again, I'm just so in love with those two people. Outside of Gerald's Game, it was very, very weird. And like, I'm staring directly into the eyes of Greenwood. Now I'm staring directly into the eyes of Gugino. Does she know how much you love son-in-law? She doesn't. But she should. Should you tell her? No, shut up, Brad. Yeah. And then, I also had the interview with Thomas Jane and Zach Hilditch and Molly Parker. And that was weird. That's all I'll say.
I think without burning bridges, you could tell us about Thomas Jane's feet.
I mean, they were in my face the entire interview.
The man doesn't wear shoes, guys.
He does not wear shoes. He does not wear shoes.
And when you don't wear shoes, you got to wear a toe jewelry.
Relaxed. He was way relaxed.
Well, I think it's probably the shoe situation that's got us all so uptight.
Yeah, maybe. But like, that was weird.
I am so hugely proud of Brad. If I might just like fucking live up to my name of wife dork. Like, I am so, because Brad is the coolest customer, but he was like legit nervous about these. He had a hard time enjoying the beginning of his Fantastic Fest until he had gotten through these interviews. But the fact that not only did he get through the interviews, but he did well and he came away with these great stories and really great interviews. Like, they're like most of the all of them up now?
All of them are up except for those, because the Wheelman one got canceled, and then I did interviews with Frank Grillo and Jeremy Rush over the phone just 2 days ago.
So
they're not up yet. Yeah,
so you should scroll back on Brad's Twitter so you can read these interviews. They're great, interesting interviews, and the way that Brad puts them together, I think, does a good job of like capturing really what it was like to be in the room with these people. I think you did an awesome job. I'm super proud.
Yeah, you did good.
It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
And and the fact that more of this stuff is going to come up for Brad. Like this is clearly a talent, and like to watch Brad like do his vocation is pretty freaking awesome. Brad's trained his whole life for this. Like literally being a dork all of this time has prepared him to be in the room with Vince Vaughn and compare heights. Vince Vaughn, slightly taller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but like Fantastic Fest was just like such a magical place because you would have, all these people around you, all this talent around you, and just being able to ask a few questions was really cool.
And get some
one of
answers.
The first encounters that we
sorry.
Shh, no more Little Mermaids. Lisa's been singing this Little Mermaid song.
It's been stuck in my head.
She's been finding ways to jam it into conversations all week.
I was singing it to him at the mall.
But one of the first filmmakers I met was the co-director of the Uruguayan short horror film, The Tooth Fairy. Lisa Bell Roden and I sat next to him during Thoroughbreds. And like, you're talking to this guy, and he's like, and then you notice that his badge says director, and you're like, oh, what are you directing? He's like, oh, I directed this film. And you're just like, there's just all this talent, all these people who want to share their love to the rest of the world.
And they're really cool talking about it. I got to chit chat with Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead for a few minutes while we were there.
Our close friends, friends of the podcast.
They totally remembered us.
He remembered me, and then I hope so. That's what I tell myself. Got to meet David Lawson.
David Lawson
IRL.
Definitely remembered you.
Yeah, so it was cool.
He definitely remembered Billy. Big boner for Billy.
Yes, he did.
He loves Billy and Billy's work.
So hopefully that will entice Billy to come out to Fantastic Fest next year. But yeah, like really cool experience. I'm so excited. I'm glad. That was one of the things I said before we went out there. Like I'm excited to see, firstly, watch you all experience it for the first time, and then also just see what experiences you have outside of the screenings themselves.
So did you have any personal triumphs?
I did not.
Astounding, beautiful moments that, though the record may not have you as the number one in our hearts and in the hearts and minds of everybody, you were the champion of the day. Do you have any situation that was merely like that where you just killed it and you were the coolest person in the room?
So obviously before heading out to Fantastic Fest, ever since last year, I was saying that I was going to compete in the Nerd Rap Battle this year. And I did that. It's been on social media for a while now since it happened. So if you haven't seen it, you can check it out if you so choose to.
And you should choose to.
Yeah.
That's just the good decision.
So I have to say, I guess I was kind of reluctant to talk about it on the podcast, but in thinking about it, that was a pretty amazing experience. I get to check that off my bucket list. I am a huge music fan. I love hip hop and rap. I was born in '76, so I grew up on '80s hip hop, '90s hip hop, which to me was like the best. Wu-Tang and the resurgence of like New York hip hop and East Coast. So I'm a huge student of rap culture, hip hop culture, and I've listened to it all my life. So, you listen to hip hop, if you get one or two songs in your head, at some point in your life, you have performed in your bathroom, in your bedroom, at home, in your car. And, I've always wanted to do that. Like, I've always admired singers and musicians and performers to get up in front of people and vibe with them and be on the same page sonically and musically and emotionally, And so, I don't know, I got to do that. I mean, I thought the nerd rap battle was a cool thing in previous years just because, it's celebrating nerd culture and it does so using a genre of music that I'm a huge fan of. So I always thought it was a cool thing. So last year, I wanted to do it. I was going to do just an entire Fury Road related like nerd rap, but I didn't sign up. I didn't do the sign up process correctly. I didn't sign up in time, so I wasn't able to do it. So I said, well, you know what? Next year I'm going to do it. I'm going to find out ahead of time. I'm going to sign up correctly, and then I'll be good to go. So I started putting my rap together, and I put a lot of thought and effort into it. It went from a Fury Road related rap to just an all encompassing like nerd collected, it was comic book related, it was video game references, it was film references. And so I was really just trying to just put out there all the things that I love and that make disco dork. And I was trying to do so in a way that also showed that I was a nerd when it comes to hip hop and my style of rhyming and things like that. And so I put a lot of work into that rap. And then chatting with some of our group, I thought, should I put the lyrics? Should I pass the lyrics out like on a? I had an idea to like make a fake flyer, like a flyer that they hand out. Hey, at the 9:30 club, Disco Dork will be performing on Saturday, and then on the back, like, have the lyrics on there because I was worried like my lyrics would go over the heads of the judges, so that was my big worry. So then Chris, Rap Dork Physics. He suggested, in years prior, they've had people use the screen on the stage, and they've projected stuff on the screen. Maybe you could just project the lyrics. So I thought, you know what, that'd be a good idea. That way, they could see what I'm saying. But then I just decided to take it a step further and put the video together with the video clips of things that I was referencing. So once I did that, I had my confidence level up. I was like, all right, I know the rhyme. I've recorded it. I've studied it over and over. I remember all the words. I got the video, so I'm bringing something different because no one's done that specifically. So, all right, so now all I have to do is just go out there and do it. And the day comes, and I'm excited. I'm really excited. I just want to get up there and do it and get it over with. I want everybody to hear the rap. And so I get up there, and I got to say, like, it was weird. I was flip-flopping between, like, nervousness and anxiousness. But, like, once I got up on the stage and then the music started, and then I heard the crowd's response, and like I looked out and I saw my friends there. I saw you all there. It took all the nervousness away, and like I was able to just perform it, and I had so much fun doing that. Like the music came on, and then I'm rapping, and I'm remembering all the times I was in the car, like saying the rap over and over, and C is like, "Daddy, can you start it over? Can you say it again?" And so, like, I'm just going through it. I'm getting it out. Like,
and
man.
You're using the stage. You look like this polished, perfect performer. Like you're. I don't even know how to describe it. You're using your arms. You're walking around like a confident gentleman.
I mean, I was terrified. I was like, I hope he doesn't fuck it up. I don't know why I didn't have the confidence.
Because Brad's never been a recital mom before. He was completely a recital mom going like, I hope my little one does a good job.
And like the moment you kicked off, it was epic.
It was.
I was just like, well,
so this is clear to our listeners. this is the kind of venue where he completely had permission to do something shitty. He could have put together a joke rap that was really cute and funny and easy, but he instead chose to do something that was really, really good. He could have made later Hoes and Zombies, and he rolls out fucking Anna and the Apocalypse. Like, he put together a rap that was legit good.
And was disco. I mean, was his heart.
And presented impeccably.
And I well, firstly, thank you. I just felt like if I'm gonna talk nerd culture, and if I'm gonna do a rap about nerd rap, like, I want to celebrate the nerds. I want to celebrate the geeks. That's why at the end, that title I put up on there, it says "The geeks shall inherit the earth." Like, I don't want people to just associate nerd stuff with like goofy shit. Or, I mean, it's nothing wrong with that. I could have had a parody rap. I could have had a joke rap or whatever. But like we take our shit seriously. Nerds and geeks, we take our love of things serious. That's why we are called nerds, because we're super hardcore into the shit that we love. And if for me, we hold things in such high regard and respect. So I felt like, you know what, I'm gonna treat this rap like that. I'm gonna treat it with respect. Like, I want people to hear it and respect the fact that nerds are into the shit that we're into and take it seriously. I want them to take us seriously. And so I just put a lot of heart into it, you know, not a lot of time, because it didn't take long to write it, I put a lot of heart into it.
You put a lot of time into it. Like, the fact that you took the time to memorize it, because a lot of people were up there, not pointing fingers, gentlemen, and it was all gentlemen, not pointing fingers, gentlemen, but a lot of people had paper up with them. You know, they put in the preparation to write something and have a beat on an iPod to play, but none of them memorized it. None of them made a screen.
I think MC
thingy.
Lunchbox memorized his.
Oh yeah, MC Lunchbox. I blocked that shit out. I respect you, MC Lunchbox. It was very brave of you to call yourself a professional rapper.
So I think for me, the fact that I'd never done that before, period, ever, anywhere, and then the fact that I had never done the nerd rap battle, and then I made it to the finals, was, I think,
based on the judges' opinion, and the judges
were John McPhail of Anna the Apocalypse and Shaniqua Shandai from Body. You know,
and then that other lady.
And
I can't remember who that was.
they all had really cool things and nice things to say about me, which, you know,
they all kept saying that you were a professional rapper and that your being there was unfair. And I just wanted to grab them by the collar and go, like, "This is his first fucking time. He's amazing, don't you think?" Yeah. But you're like too humble. You're like, it was so cute because when you were doing your rap, you were like so confident and you were using the stage and it was amazing. And then as soon as the rapping was over, you were like so shy and so quiet. And so like they were saying all of this stuff like about you being like professional and it's unfair for you to be there. And like that's when you should have been like, "This was my first time and I killed it."
You know what? I didn't even notice that they said that until watching the video. I don't know. Like
you blacked out.
Everything was like a blur up there. Yeah, it was crazy. So I just heard them saying stuff and smiling. So I was saying thank you and shaking my head and shit. But like I didn't even notice that the lady from Body said that I was professional until like watching the footage again. I was like, wait a minute, she said that? Damn, maybe that's why the audience was thinking that. So unfortunately, so it comes down to this. So you 7 rappers. We go up there. They pick the top two. The top 2 face off against each other. So I got picked to face off against the previous champion, Andrew Todd. And
his Pennywise's daddy rap was funny.
Pretty great. It was funny. It was a spoof.
Yeah.
Later Hosts and Zombies.
And so what happens at this point, the judges don't decide the winner of the freestyle battle, because this battle has to be you have to freestyle it. So you have to, make it up right there on the spot. And the judges don't choose the winner of this stuff. They let the audience choose. And so the audience chose Andrew, and so I got second place.
But here's the thing. Like, when you do things by audience applause, like Andrew Todd is like
royalty.
One of the dudes. He's like one of the dudes. He's from Birth Movies Death. All of the Birth Movies Death people were there. Like, this is only your second Fantastic Fest. You are well on your way. You have a golden road paved for you to be the dude.
Yeah.
So, like it was.
But here's the other awesome thing about Darren's rap. was he was decked out in Itmod attire.
Yeah.
He had the In the Mouth of Darkness t-shirt on. He had the In the Mouth of Darkness backpack on. And then when the audio visual ended, the big Itmod banner came up. And you can go on the Fantastic Fest's Facebook page and see this gorgeous shot that the professional photographer took of Darren, in full Rocky stance, victorious, with the Itmod banner behind him. It is one of the greatest images of my life.
I know, and I feel like the people are like, oh, Itmod, it must be the coolest podcast ever with the coolest people, and it's just tricking people to listen to me.
I'm not lying. When after that happened and they were like, oh, we're going to have to listen to your podcast, I was like, shit, I got to bump some really good episodes to the top of the Twitter feed. So that's when I went into the highball and I tweeted out some strong Itmod episodes.
Yeah. There was no way I was going to go up there and not represent the podcast. I mean, that was a given. But the cool part is, even though I lost, I felt like I won. Firstly, because all my friends were there and you all showed me love and support. But then secondly, all the judges came up to me afterwards and told me, yo, I think you won. That was bullshit. I think you won. Everyone. And then throughout the rest of the festival, at random times, people would come up to me. Oh, hey, you were in the Nerd Rap. Yo, I saw you. That was awesome. That was amazing. Yo, I think you won. Even during the closing night party at some off-site location, when I was standing in the Nitro ice cream line, some girl was like, what is this line for? And I go, it's for some ice cream. Oh, okay. Hey, you were in the Nerd Rat, right? That was you? Yo, you did awesome. I think you should have won. I'm like, okay, thank you. So where
were these? They weren't cheering loud enough. I cheered as loud as I could cheer. I cheered very loud. And then I was very quiet during the other people so that they would not mistake any sound that I would even stood still just in case I accidentally tripped and made extra sound on the other guy's applause.
I may have clapped a little for Andrew Todd.
You are so polite. I was like an icicle. I was just I even looked disapproving, just in case they looked at me and were like, is she making a sound? She could not possibly be making a sound because she looks disapproving.
Well, I appreciate it. And it's okay. It turned out totally fine.
And you get to be the underdog next year, which is
back.
We know from Rocky powerful
he won
position.
He won in part 2. So, and that's in the first line of my next rap. So, spoiler alert. So I will be back. But I just want to say again, thank you to everybody who came out to the highball, who supported me, who showed me love, and all the people who commented on Facebook and showed me their support. I really appreciate it. You made an amazing experience even better. So thank you so much. Man. So we left Fantastic Fest and went right into Lost Weekend. Our coverage of that is online. You can check those episodes out. But your first Fantastic Fest, you did it.
Nailed it.
Are you looking forward to coming back?
I'm sad I'm not there right now.
Seriously.
I had a lot of reservations going into Fantastic Fest.
You did.
Partly, because of the emetophobia thing. And there was a lot of vomiting in these films. And I did have one very public nervous breakdown. But I think that's a good number. I could have had way more. So one was pretty good, I guess.
Yeah.
And also...
And you recovered from it pretty quickly.
Pretty quickly. Bounced right back to the confusion of everybody. Because I looked very desperate and sad just moments ago. And then I'm like, hi, don't mention it. But then also the social anxiety aspect. I'm one of those people where being forced to socialize and be kind multiple times in a day can be very, very stressful for me. And but I did like the structure of, because a lot of social anxiety is, what am I going to say? And that was never an issue. You always had movies to talk about. And when I needed to get away, I did. I would just go and I would take a walk and take a breather. And what I love the structure of where it's like being in college. It's like you're there to do your passion and you have your agenda and then you do that. And I'm looking forward to next time not having those qualms and just going I know what it's going to be. I know that you can't fail. You can't fail at Fantastic Fest because you get to see so many movies.
Yep.
That you won't fail. And now it's got to be on my calendar next year, or I don't see any point going on.
What about you, Brad?
I echo all those sentiments.
Yeah.
We've been speaking for like an hour and a half. We only mentioned like 4 films. It's crazy because we saw so many great movies, and you want to champion all these films that you see because you fall in love with them so hard.
I think for the dorkies at the end of the year, I will be able to discuss more films that I've seen at Fantastic Fest. 1 or 2 maybe on my top 10 list this year.
Yep, I would agree with that for sure. As a closing round, should we just do like one more movie? Just one more movie that surprised you?
I'll do. I'll for my last one. I'll take the documentary, Brimstone and Glory.
Nice.
Just a gorgeous, gorgeous documentary about a really interesting way of life. And San Juan. I'm gonna mess the.
No, the city starts with a T, and the saint is like San Juan something.
Yeah, that. But
it's like one Mexican town where their entire economy rotates around fireworks.
The manufacturing of fireworks, like they hand make fireworks, and there's a festival.
There's 2 festivals.
2 festivals. The Burning Castle and the Burning Bull.
Right.
And they just deck these structures out with fireworks, and there's all manner of hazard and danger involved, and fire and burn risk, and people without limbs because of accidents in the past. But just the tradition is so steeped in their culture that it's just their way of life. And for them, it's what you do when you wake up until you go to sleep, day in and day out. And to get a glimpse into that world, a world that previously was just alien to, I did not know it existed. And it was filmed in such a way. It's done by the people who did, I was going to say Hunt for the Willow People, Beast of the Southern Wild, which if you've seen that movie, it's just visually striking and gorgeous. This film is done by that team, and it is visually arresting. It is amazing. And I highly recommend checking it out if you get a chance. It's called Brimstone and Glory. It is a documentary.
Carrying the documentary torch, I would also highlight 7852.
Yes.
The documentary that focuses on the shower scene from Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, deconstructing why that moment is so effective in our cultural psyche. It is brilliant. It's so much more than just a special feature. One, they interview everybody from Peter Bogdanovich to Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. They give the context, the cultural context of Psycho in 1960, plus the repercussions of that sequence. And yes, I think you do need to appreciate Psycho in some fashion to enjoy this movie. Or I would say you at least need to be excited about the craft of filmmaking to properly enjoy this film. But if you are, it is such an enriching experience and immediately made me want to watch Psycho. I wish there had been like a double feature capability with this movie, but I'll be able to recreate that in my home someday at the very least. And, the director of that film, Alexandra Felipe, he's going to tackle another iconic horror movie moment for his next film. And holy cow, am I excited by the prospect of that.
Yes. Lisa.
Yes. I'm going to mention the South African film Matwetwe or Wizard.
Wizards, man.
So this film is so hysterical, and it takes place in the South African ghetto of Atteridgeville. Is that what it's called?
Sure.
Yeah, I said it right. I should have been confident. Attridgeville, which is where all of the black people were put during apartheid. So there's like this level of poverty and but this rich culture. So it's about these two kids. One kid has like a really promising future of going on to university, but it's hard, it's hard to pay for. Like there's all kinds of expenses. And then he has a friend who has maybe perhaps less bookish with a less promising future. And but maybe he's a bit more connected, more of the businessman kind of ideas. So the genius kid, the kid who's going to university, has a passion for botany. And so he's come up with this amazing strain of weed. And so it's him and his friend trying to, but like in Attridgeville, there's just not a lot of opportunity to make the money that their weed is really worth. Like, so in this movie, they're trying to find a more lucrative way to move their amazing product, and hijinks ensue. And it's a visually beautiful film. The structure, the director and writer Kagiso Ladiga uses a kind of like a Greek chorus structure with these three townspeople sharing stories on a porch and talking about like the different, they're like going like, which story are we going to tell today? And they introduce some of the interesting, colorful characters of this little, of their neighborhood. And but then they land on telling this story, and then you get to see all of these beautiful characters weave their way in and out.
They were some of my favorite things about the film, those three characters.
Oh, absolutely. And I just think that like it's the highlight of like what Fantastic Fest is all about. This is small budget, foreign, genre, beautiful. They use a lot of South African pop music, which I was actually obsessed with in college because I almost minored in world music, but unfortunately they didn't start the world music minor until after I had graduated. So, but I had most of the credits. All I had to do was field work, which I did not do because it didn't exist yet. But like, so the music is beautiful. It's visually stunning. The performances are hilarious and wonderful. And it's got a twist ending. Spoiler alert, I guess.
At the closing night party, I got to
apology.
chit-chat with the director, and I talked for a long time with the producer, the young lady, blonde hair lady. I think she had blonde hair. I got to chat with them a good while about the film and just movies in general. With the producer, I get to talk to her about other films at the festival that we saw. But yeah, that was Wizards was another unsuspecting surprise. Like I know nothing about this film. I have nothing else to see in this slot. It was a second half film for me. Same.
And lucky for us, the director was still there.
Yep.
And like one of your goals is like, I'm going to nail the nerd rap battle. Next year, I'm going to try to ask questions during the Q&A. Because I would always come away, like after the Q&A, I would always think of a question. Like, I'm curious about that. Like the licensing of all of the South African pop music. Because I know that, with independent films here, the music licensing is so expensive that it's cheaper to have a composer compose music than it is to pay for recognizable music.
Right.
And I was wondering if that was the same, or I don't know. I was just curious about that later, and I was too shy to ask.
I'm going to hold you to that next year.
Yeah.
Ask questions. So yeah. Oh, I just want to say, you all didn't make it to the closing night party, but Itchy
Antisocial.
Yeah,
I'm antisocial. I've got the nerves.
The Itchy O performance was something that I will never forget. That was an amazing experience. I don't know that there is anything else like it. It's even hard. It's just hard to describe.
Yeah, Ashley was a huge fan. She was in our group.
I became a huge fan. I bought both their albums while I was there. They had a section in the back selling T-shirts, buttons, pins, and albums. They started performing, and I was like, "Oh my God, I got to go buy those albums," and I did that. I would say if you have an opportunity to see them, they're touring. They're in Kansas soon. I don't know if they just do West Coast or Midwest stuff or what, but definitely check them out. They're just this percussion heavy. It's basically Itch.io is basically the drummers on the back of the Doof Warriors vehicle in Fury Road. It's them. It's like a 31-piece per set like band, and it's basically that type of music, really percussion heavy. And
here I heard it was like super presentational too.
Oh
like
my goodness! So they have half of the group on the stage, all decked out in all manner of costumes. Some of them are banging on those big old, like, big, huge drums. Some of them are playing guitars or whatever. And then there are people in the audience walking around with these guys walking around with like devices strapped to them with big speakers and amplifiers on the back. And they're creating like these weird sounds that go with the music that's playing. So like in a song, in any type of arrangement, if you're just listening to it and you hear somebody on cowbell. Well, in Itch.io, the guy on cowbell is walking around in the audience playing cowbell. He's part of the arrangement. And they have another guy on like this 3-wheel bicycle with this computer thing on it with a mixing pad, a soundboard on it, so he can make these weird sounds as part of the musical arrangement. So it's like this sonic presentation that's coming from the stage, coming from the speakers, but also from behind you when the guy walks behind you. And then they have performers that are like walking around through the crowd, all decked out in costumes and like on the ground doing like this weird stuff. Like it's
they
just
sound
insane.
like marching band nerds on steroids.
To put it lightly, yeah. So, but yeah, it's an experience. But I highly recommend if you're in Fantastic Fest or if you're in that area and they're playing, definitely check them out. So, having said that,
one last thing.
Yes,
we won't talk about it much, but Darren, Lisa, and Brad apparently are the 3 fans of downsizing.
Oh, I liked it.
There was a lot of negative reviews coming out of Fantastic Fest for downsizing.
I don't understand.
And the 3 of us all found it incredibly charming.
Yeah.
For Udo Kier alone, you need to see Downsizing.
Please.
It's a Yorgos Lanthimos movie, but without the darkness.
Mm-hmm. I really dug it.
Yeah, me
I
too.
really dug Downsizing. What's her name? She played the lady. Man, I love that character. Once her character came into the story, because I wasn't sure how I felt about it in like the opening act. I was like, okay, what is this? What's going on? But then when they introduced her character, I fell in love with the movie.
Hong Chow. And when I interviewed Udo Kier, and I didn't include this on the written interview, but we finished our conversation talking about Downsizing. And one of the things he said was, you need to see it for Hong Chow.
Oh, man.
That's nice.
That's so nice of him to say that, because she's amazing in the film. Oh, that movie is so...
And I gotta tell you, watching it with Darren was a blast.
He didn't get to
tiny
watch
people.
it with Darren. This is another situation. So I was sitting with people who were not enjoying it as much, and I had to keep my love a secret, and that's so hard to hide.
That.
Yeah.
But I really liked it. I thought it was very
Me
sweet.
too. So, listeners, Downsizing gets Itmod's seal of approval. Check it out when you have the opportunity. In the meantime, Turtle Dork was not here today for this discussion because he is envious. You can follow him.
I actively missed him, though. Didn't you actively miss Brian?
Dude, that's how I felt last year when you weren't there. I was like, oh my God, you all have to be here.
So I'm sitting front row for the Wheelman screening, and Joe Carnahan passed me his popcorn. And I was like, shit, Brian should be getting this popcorn.
So hopefully this will entice him next year like I enticed you this year to come. So, Brian, you need to be there. But in the meantime, you can find him at The Turtle Dork on Twitter.
At home. No, just joking.
At The Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram. And at Brian William Young on Facebook. And Wife Dork is at Sidewalk Siren, currently at home.
Yeah.
But she is also on Twitter at Sidewalk Siren and on Instagram. And on Letterboxd at Sidewalk
and
Siren.
make sure that you go on After Movie Diner. And that's where all of my Fantastic Fest reviews are up, including my 3 Feet Ball and Souls review, which is a great movie that we didn't even talk about.
Goodness. Oh my goodness.
And my Last Weekend 8 review of My Friend Dahmer. And I just really love, the After Movie Diner was John Cross's love child. He has a really popular podcast. And the fact that he's opened up his website to other reviewers, myself included, is really a beautiful thing and a real celebration of genre film. So if you're into Fantastic Fest, you'll be into the After Movie Diner.
So shout out to John Cross and those guys for giving Wife Dork that avenue to express her talents.
And just he added all the pictures and did all of the graphics for all of my stuff. He does a great job.
That's amazing. Thank you, John. Brad Gullickson at MouthDork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Letterboxd. And your interviews and reviews can be found
at Film School Rejects.
Yep. I'm Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, on all social medias at the Disco Dork. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Be on the lookout for A Fistful of Ghosts this Friday. Spoiler.
It goes off the rails. I think maybe we were possessed by people who are really shitty at podcasting. No, it's a great episode. You'll find out secrets about all of us.
Yes, we will. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week. See you next year at Fantastic Fest. And until
Brian.
next time.